Children, you know the mountains, hills, plains, and plateaus. In the previous classes, we studied about that, and also we studied about the village life in plains and the village life in plateau region also. In this lesson, we are going to learn about the village life in hilly region, and especially we take one example, a village, Penugolu. Actually, the Telangana plateau is a part of Deccan Plateau. You know the Deccan Plateau. So the Deccan Plateau is marked towards the east, Eastern Ghats, and towards the west, Western Ghats. Mainly, the hill ranges in Telangana are the parts of Western Ghats. The Eastern Ghats are located on the eastern border of Jaishankar district. The hill ranges in Telangana they spreads to the neighboring states like Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha. Here, the many people who are living in these hills, they belong to the different types of tribal communities. Generally, for example, Savara, Kondadora, Gadaba, Gond, Mannedora, Mukadora, and Koya. These are the important tribal communities are living in these regions. Especially in our Telangana, the Koya tribe, the Koyas are living in the Penugolu village. And these people, they have their own unique culture and also they have the more knowledge about the hilly region and about the forest and forest to produce and the medicinal plants from the forest. So they have a vast knowledge in these sectors. Today we are going to learn about Penugolu, a village on the hills. The Penugolu village actually is situated in Vajedu Mandal, lies on hills, and the hills are on the banks of river Godavari. The main community, the main tribal community is living in this village is Koyas. Koyas means a good person living on the hills. Generally, they speak Koya language, and this community spread out the hills up to the surrounding states, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh. And of course, the many Koyas from these regions they migrated to the districts like Adilabad, Karnagar, and Warangal. Of course, they don't speak Koya language in these districts but have adopted Telugu. This village is surrounded by hills. Hills means Guttalu. And in the north, the Chhattisgarh state is there, and the Karregutta or Nallagutta is there. And on the south, Bankamamidi Gutta is there. And on the east, Kallukuntala Gutta is there. And Chinna Kummarilanka, Pedda Kummarilanka in the west. So Vajed is a mandal. In this mandal, the Penugolu village is located. So the Vajed is situated near the stream of Nallandevi Vagu from the Nallagutta that flows down from the north and joins the Godavari. Generally, when we want to visit the Penugolu village, we have to reach Gummadoddi village. Gummadoddi village is located at the foot of the hills. From this village, we can find a path. That path was very steep and narrow and slippery. And we also see the famous Bogata waterfall near Chikupelli on the way. On the way, you can see the Bogata waterfall. It is at Chikupalli village. As we climbed the hills, We can see the thick forest and some of the cleared lands. These clear lands are used for cultivation, and generally the fields are with red soil. You know the red soil? It is not very fertile, and also it is consisted of plenty of stones and pebbles, and it is located 20 kilometers away from the Mandal headquarters, Vazedu. Podu. Generally, it is the agriculture practice of the Koyas. Podu is a traditional practice of farming in hilly regions. This is also called shifting agriculture or zoom cultivation. It is also practiced by Kunda Reddis, and it is also practiced in the states Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Arunachal Pradesh. In this, every village it has a specified area or hill that is used for the farming. Generally, the people clear the patch of land and they use that land for the cultivation. They grow the different types of crops in that lands, and after few years they move to another land and they allow this land to grow the forests. This way, their farms keep shifting every few years, and they return to these plots after many years. In the November, it stops raining. The Koyas, using their axes, they clear the patches of forest in the month of December, and they allow the logs of wood to lie there and dry on the field. And these are burnt in April or May just before the rains. When the rainy season starts, so the total ground is covered with the ashes of burnt wood. By the arrival of rain in June, the people dribble the seeds with the help of digging sticks. They use the digging sticks. They do not plow that lands because these lands are located on the slopes of hills. So if they plow that land, automatically the topsoil will be disappeared and the topsoil will run off with the water, with the rainwater. This leads to the infertile lands. So they don't use plow or they don't use any fertilizer also. The farmers want this ashes and the dead leaves to remain on that land or improve the fertility of that land. Generally, they are growing the important crops. Example, the jawar, జొన్నలు, maize, మొక్కజొన్న, tubers, దుంపలు, millets, సామలు, కొర్రలు, అడుసులు, and సీసేమం, నువ్వులు, and pulses like red gram, kandulu, green gram, pesarlu, and vegetables like brinjal and chilies, pachimirapa, and gongura, etc. So they are growing the mixed crops here without any irrigation and without using the fertilizer. As the fields are very close to the forest, generally they attract the animals and birds. So to protect their crops from their animals and birds, the Koyas build manche to guard their fields until December. In olden days, each family cleared 2 to 2.5 acres of land, forest land, and their average yield of jawar per acre of podu field is 250 kgs only. And each family in those times harvested about 600 kilograms of jawar, apart from 150 to 250 kgs of small millets also. Now the available area for podu has decreased to 1 to 1.5 acres only. So it led to the reduced availability of food grains also. The rotation of cycle has also become smaller. So the soil is not able to recover its fertility as earlier. Vegetable garden in the backyard. In this village, we can see the every house. It had a neat bamboo fences around the backyard, and this backyard provided a space for small kitchen garden. In this garden, they planted a few vegetables like beans, gourd, chilies, and fences had climbers also like pumpkin. At times, some poultry was also kept in these fences, and some of them were rare goats, sheep, cattle, and dogs. The crop they are getting from the Podu agriculture, it is not sufficient for them. So they are continuing their collection of forest produce and hunting. So hunting and collection of forest produce is important in their livelihood. Generally, the forests are the great storehouses for them. For the hundreds of years, they identified various available edible food sources and medicines in the forest. They depend upon throughout the year on the forest. They have the tribal calendar is marked by various seasons for various fruits and tubers, nuts, green leaves. Even for hunting small animals also. If they get any illness for humans or animals, they have more knowledge about the medicinal plants in the forest for their remedies. Except for a few months during and after the harvest, tribal women and children are engaged in collection of forest produce. The important forest produces are honey and bamboo shoots. Generally, the tender bamboo shoots are called Perikomulu. These are collected from the tips of the bamboo bushes, and these shoots are cooked after the outer layer is removed. So they prepare a delicious food with them. And also they have a juice of palm tree, that is the kallu, especially in summers. Generally, they work together in the fields, and men do more work than the women. Women and children attend for gathering food and making baskets. They sell these forest minor produce and the baskets in the santas, and they purchase the daily needs like the clothes and other requirements. Drinking water. In this village, they have many natural springs of water. These springs are providing water to the people of this village. And some streams also there, they flow through the hills. And finally, they join the rivers like Shebari and Godavari. Of course, it is very hard to dig the wells because of the soil is very rocky. And the water springs lasts throughout the year. And some of the natural springs can dry up in summer, and streams are generally seasonal. They last for a few months after the rains. They get the water after walking a distance of about 30 minutes walk. Bamboo. Bamboo is important to forest produce. Generally, the bamboo is used to build houses, fences, etc. and for making baskets, windows, chicken coops, etc. Now, the paper mills also have the right to collect the bamboos from the forest, and they appointed the agents to collect the bamboos from the forest. And these agents used to use the tribal people by giving the 1 rupee, 150 rupees per day, and they are getting the bamboos from them. Houses and habitation. You can see the houses in this village mostly built of mud and bamboo and thatch, and there is a separate space for animals and to grow the vegetables, and all the houses are fenced, and also they have the space between them. Houses in Penugolu are the top of the hills. There were only 32 families living here. It means the total population here is only 124, and also their settlements are also not permanent. If they get any epidemic, they quickly evacuate that places and they build new houses. And the customs. The tribal people of Penugolu worship the gods of nature and they have some important festivals to follow. And they worship the stone idol and they also worship Burra. It is the round shaped dried bottle god and Tadu under the tamarind tree. They call it as the Mutyalamma. They celebrate Yellanam Padam, Bhumi Puja and Kodatala Panduga. It is Peddala Panduga and also Bhimini Panduga. It is the festival of Vippapu. Generally, the Kodatala Panduga is celebrated in September and they offer vegetables to their deities. All the major activities like sowing, harvest are begin after these festivals. During festivals, they gather even if they are living far from villages. Even though the hill tribes are very few, they have been following a pattern of life from the ancient times and they do not disturbing the environment and they are also regenerating the forest which they had fell down. Their way of life is under threat due to constant felling of trees. The forest officials try to stop the Podu cultivation. It is dangerous to them and they have only some facilities such as schools. Only Girizana Primary School is there near the well and there is a high school at Vazedu. It is 20 kilometers from their village. It is very difficult to reach to teach their students.